everybody. We're having a slight technical difficulty. Give us a minute. But we're here.
You want to go ahead and put this back over there too?
He's going to make me look weird.
I am going to move. Yes, move.
Okay. There we go.
What's the technical difficulty?
I have the wrong script. Because we're in the middle of
technical.
We're
Don't
in the
blame
middle
the robots. That's human error, sir.
We're in the middle of switching computers, and I had the wrong script.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3,
That is
2,
human errors.
1.
Oh, in any case, there it goes.
Blog Talk Radio.
Alright, now I have the wrong script.
And we're live with
Everybody.
So, yeah.
Hi, everybody.
And Lee's here with us again.
So,
Because, pirates
Everybody loves pirates.
are pirates.
we've got 2 people watching, and that might be me and Chris.
And I am silencing my phone. There we go.
Oh, that's an excellent idea, yes.
I'm not getting back up for your phone.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
I think I silenced mine already.
Okay, cool. Alright, so we are here with pirates and kitty cats.
Yep.
And yeah, it's going to be a fun night. What have we been doing lately? Chris and I were on vacation.
Yes. And now we're back.
And now we're back to real life.
And what else can be said about that?
Guys.
So,
So,
grabbing the drink because the boys are wrestling.
yep.
Alright, yeah, so back from vacation, getting ready for October. Lots of interesting things. Alright, what are we announcing everything we're doing finally?
We got a lot in the works. None of it's actually up for sale yet or anything like
Okay.
that.
I thought you
Sorry,
said
I think we're. I think that by and large we're going to have to wait another 2 weeks, and when we come back to do
Well, another 2 weeks and one of those events will come by. Is it worth
which one?
it? Museum?
No, you see, everything is next month. We're meeting with them this Friday to
Okay.
get.
Yeah, I have no concept of scheduling.
This is
already.
supposed to be our easy month. Exactly.
We
what she
forget
said.
it exists,
I keep
okay? So
forgetting
we're
we
already
have-
in October in our heads.
I'm thinking that we only have 2 weeks in September when we have 3 weeks. Okay, I'm sorry.
Totally not with it tonight.
No, I walked out of here without doing a lot of things this morning that I said I was going to do when I went to my day job. Still haven't caught up right. Anyway, shall we talk about pirates? Are you ready to talk about pirates?
You have the script in front of you.
May I start with a joke?
Yes, you may.
Of
I'm gonna
course.
start with a joke. See, my mama, I was raised, I know you guys can't see me, but I look young for my age. But no, I was raised in the age of Pirates of the Caribbean. I was also raised in raised in the age of the pirates who don't do anything. So we did pirate jokes, and I got a doozy. Okay, you guys ready?
Ready.
Why are pirates with poor navigational skills so bad at the alphabet?
I feel like it's because there's letters missing, but
Because they get lost at sea.
See,
See.
lost at
it's like it's something to do with an R or a C.
sea. See,
Yes.
yes.
There you go. You're
Okay.
present.
All right, so
Off
let's.
to a great start.
Yes.
Cheers, everybody. Oh, and we're drinking rum, of course.
Yes,
Yes.
it's rum and coke night.
But yeah, so I guess of events coming up, we don't. We do have, like, at the end of the month, we're going to be doing our
I got
market.
laughs.
We're going to be doing our market at
Flower Cheetah Market.
Flower Cheetah Market. That's going to be coinciding with the Chester Fest or whatever it is down there in Chester. It's going to be Saturday. What?
No, I'm looking to put my hand here.
Oh, okay.
Aww. Oh, you're cute.
The 22nd,
Of
the Churchill Horse Fairs.
oh yeah, October 22nd.
Excuse
Yep.
me.
So we got our Scares the Care benefit tour that's going to be on Saturday, October 22nd. It's going to be our Churchill Chillers tour, and all the ticket sales are going to be going to support Scares the Care. So we hope that you can come on out for that. And
You'll have myself and Marcia as the guide for that evening, so please come on out.
yep. But we got there's so much that we're not quite ready to talk about yet.
Yeah,
We're almost
there's
there.
4 events
Almost
in
there.
the works that we are working with various venues across Richmond. So hopefully soon we'll be able to launch those tickets.
Yep. Yeah. We'll probably wind up announcing them before we actually do our next show, but we'll make sure that we do talk them up on our next show. But we got so much going on.
I'm
We
so
do.
excited about certain things, though.
Yep. All right. So of course we've talked about some pirates already. Blackbeard when we did Outer Banks, Captain Kidd with some of our ghostly waterways and shipyards, that sort of thing. So we're going to talk about a few more. A lot of them are here locally on the East Coast. I decided I wanted to do a few that way. But it was kind of interesting diving into these other piratey ghosts. And of course, there's always something fascinating about those who make a living on the high seas from centuries ago. We're not referring to those who engaged in trading at the great ports of the world, though their lives were certainly full of excitement and danger. Now, we're talking about that different breed of sailor, those who engaged in the less than legal practices, often preying on those who engaged in an arguably far more legal seafaring business. That said, they were also still lived by a code and a strict set of rules about what was allowed and what you would run you afoul with your, of course, pirating peers. Through the lenses of history, the pirates still instill a sense of fascination and awe, a few others that can match it. Whether their legacies are romanticized or scorned is often left up to the particulars of those interpreting the histories and whether some of the tallest of tales can be taken at face value or not. I need to make my script a wee bit larger. There's a reason why I'm going to the eye doctor this week. Alright, so often these tales reach beyond what can easily be explained as they dive into paranormal realms, with stories of pirates who would not be stopped simply because they were dead. The question of these is hauntings, tales can be taken at face value, or if they should be taken as exaggerations of a given pirate's life or death is something that can be debated. Regardless of where the line falls between the truth and tall tales, stories are still fun to share. So tonight we have assembled a collection of pirating ghosts for your enjoyment. We'll leave it up to you if you want to search out these spooky pirates encounters for yourself when we're all finished. Now, before we dive right in, of course, there is one note of a major omission from this evening's tales, and that, of course, is Blackbeard, because we already talked about him. We don't need to.
We talked about him twice.
Yeah.
We featured him on our Haunted Beaches episode on May 25th of 2020, and again on our Haunted Outer Banks episode on August 17th of 2020. So if you want to talk about or hear tales of like the most famous pirate of all, you can go ahead and go back to check out those episodes. Being as famous as he is, he certainly has plenty of stories about him, which we have already discussed on another occasion.
But it is time to talk about some of those other pirates, some of which you have heard of them, some of them not so much.
Undoubtedly so.
Boys, you are not allowed to knock over the Roman code. That will get you flogged and make you walk the plank.
Walking the plank was a myth. Alright. So, anyways. Moving on. So, we are going to go ahead and we're going to start down at White Point Garden. Now, this is a historic waterfront park on the Charleston Battery and is full of leafy trees, ocean breezes, and the souls of the dead, according to ghost hunters. These romantic gardens with views of the Ashley River and Charleston Harbor belie the grim history that took place here in centuries past. Numerous pirates had their mortal lives drawn to a close here at the end of a noose during the 18th century, with one of the most notable pirate executions to be that of Stede Bonnet and his entire crew. They were all hung out here in the oak trees in the year 1718, and at night their screams are still said to ring out across the park. There have been whispers of apparitions of their cadavers gently swaying in the breeze, their eyes alive only with terror. Stede and his crew are far from the only pirates who are said to haunt the Charleston area. Not far from the White Point Garden is the historic Powder Magazine. The name can be a little misleading, as the structure has seen much more than the storage of gunpowder over the years. Great fits of violence have occurred around here as well, leading many to believe that the Powder Magazine is one of the most haunted places in all of Charleston. Of the many ghosts around the Powder Magazine, few are quite as famous, though, as Anne Bonny. Anne Bonny. That's it. Words. Bonny is easily one of the most famous female pirates to ever grace the seven seas, and she is remembered for being quite the handful during her day. No one knows exactly when she was born, but we do know that she was born in Kinsale, Ireland around 1697. She was an illegitimate child of her father, William Cormac, who was a lawyer, and her mother, Mary Brennan, who was his servant. Cormac's wife wasted no time going public with the affair that her husband had. This made him lose his credibility altogether. He ended up marrying Brennan, and he took her and Anne to America to begin their new life. They settled in Charleston, South Carolina. This would be just the beginning of a new life for Anne Bonny. Now, Mary Brennan died when Anne was a teenager, and Anne had to take over when it was time to help her father around the house. Her responsibilities on the home front didn't shield Anne from earning a fiery reputation in the community. Stories went all over the city about Anne and her evil temper. It was said that she murdered one of her servants by stabbing her to death, and she beat and stabbed a young man so badly that he was put in the hospital. It was only later that it came out that the reason behind her attack was that he was actually trying to sexually assault her.
Go, Anne.
So, yeah, kudos to Anne for that. Now, that said, Anne was not afraid of falling in love, though. When she was around 16 years old, she met pirate James Bonny. He was just after one thing, and that was her father's money and estate. Her father did not agree with their relationship at all, as you might imagine, and he knew that something was off with James. They ended up getting married against her father's wishes, and James swept Anne away to New Providence in the Bahamas, which was a pirate hideout at the time. James couldn't make ends meet as a small-time pirate, so he became an informant for the governor, a career choice that angered Anne, as she preferred the company of pirates to anyone else, particularly the government. Anne decided to take things into her own hands and left her husband for another pirate, Calico Jack Rackham. Now, Calico Jack was known for his attacks on coastal ships, and he didn't make a lot of money as a pirate either, though. The relationship between Anne and Rackham was not public, but she did become pregnant with his child. No one truly knows what happened to their first child, but rumors say that it died in birth in Cuba. Things began to get tougher for Anne, and she ended up meeting another female pirate named Mary Read. Rackham was jealous of their relationship, but the three of them were a force to be reckoned with. Still, their luck eventually ran out, and they were captured. Rackham was executed, but Anne and Mary managed to pull off their own meeting with the hangman by claiming that they were both pregnant. Mary died in prison, likely as a result of complications of pregnancy and/or childbirth. However, Anne's death was not confirmed. She quietly slipped out of the historical record, leading some to believe that her eventual execution was poorly recorded, while others think that she was freed by her well-to-do father to live a long, happy, and quiet life back in Charleston. Regardless of when and how Anne met her end, many believe that her spirit returned to Charleston, the city where she spent so many years of her life. Her spirit seems to be searching for someone in the area around the Powder Magazine, or maybe she is looking for some powder to cause a little more trouble. She is also believed to have been spotted at Charleston's famous Pink House. This part of her story assumes that she married a reputable man and lived out her life as a tavern keeper after escaping the same fate as her pirate colleagues. While Anne's pirating career only spanned a few years, her ferocity and love for life on the high seas has helped cement Anne's and her spirit's place in pirating history.
I love Anne Bonny.
Anne Bonny's fantastic.
She is so much fun. Alright, the Palatine legend on Block Island, Rhode Island. Some 12 miles off of Rhode Island's coast is Block Island. It's a New Englander's dream. It's remarkably clear water splashing against 17 miles of coastline. Classic East Coast charm dotting the island's dramatic bluffs, and an air of relaxation floating in on the Atlantic breezes, which also, of course, carries visions of ghost ships. This serves as a backdrop to a story of a pirate who long ago sealed his fate and is now doomed to relive the moments he forever forged. The residents of Block Island know the story well. It's divulged with such consistency that one would not dare to challenge the validity of where this tale had been handed down from. The pirate's name was Lee.
Hey, it's me.
And he was among the lesser educated members of the community, letting him to rely on the sea for, of course, his keep. This was not a very prosperous thing, and he was short on his manners and personality. What he found suited him better was the work of a privateer. Now, Lee's ship was moored in a Spanish port when a Spanish woman, aware of his impending trip to America, sought passage. One look, and Lee knew that the woman was quite affluent. Her purse was plump with currency, and her jewels ripe for the picking. He immediately accommodated her needs and even agreed to transport her white stallion aboard the vessel. As a privateer, this was a bounty from the heavens. No taking another ship, his booty had willingly come to him. They set sail as soon as they were out of sight of land, and Lee's men stabbed the servants in their sleep, while Lee went after the passenger by smashing through her cabin door. Though alarmed, the woman kept her head and was able to elude Lee and leapt overboard to avoid the fate that would have befallen her. In anger, Lee had the horse thrown over the side of the ship. As the boat sailed away, the horse's shrieks sent chills through Lee's henchmen. But all soon everything was quiet, and the men took to drinking and gambling to suppress the incident in their memories. Well, as the drink flowed and the emotions ran high, especially when it came time to divide up their ill-gotten gains, an argument occurred, and Lee stabbed one of his own men, and then threw him overboard. Because that's what you do.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I'm just more upset about the horse, to be honest.
Yeah, that was just rude. I mean,
yeah.
Rude, yeah.
waste of a good horse. Anyway.
And just a little cruel, too. Just maybe.
Yeah. It wasn't long before they found themselves on the shores of Block Island. There, in the cloak of darkness, they brought ashore their bounty and buried it. They saved enough pay for silence and welcome in the community for the next year. During this respite from plundering, the word had leaked to the authorities of the pirates' whereabouts, and Lee and his men cast full sail on the ship and sent it to sea unmanned to create a diversion for the law. They were now castaways on the island after that. Another year passed, and Lee was soaking up some libations with his men along the bluffs one night when over the dark horizon came a spot of light. The very minute at first, the spot grew larger by the second. Before long it was upon them in full view. It was their ship, in flames, bearing down towards them at a furious clip. The startled freebooters stared in disbelief as the vessel came to the shore near the bluffs. A shimmering white horse came to shore, bolted up the ledge towards the frightened throng. The men shied frantically from the nightshade, but Lee, being their brave leader, scoffed at their fear and mounted the stallion.
Nice!
At once it took off, carrying the pirate across the cliffs into the highest peak until it stopped just short of the edge. The sea was quiet, and Lee could see the glowing ship below him. On the ship he saw, to his horror, the faces of those he and his men had killed, looking back at him. They remained expressionless, with eyes as black and wicked as a shark glaring up at him. The sun slid over the horizon, and the steed faded away from underneath Lee. There on the cliff stood one lone pirate, and the ship faded away, and the other men ran in terror. From that day on, the corsairs who had accompanied Lee abandoned him and shunned his presence. They believed Lee was cursed and didn't want to share his cursed fate. Destiny had brought its cruel wrath upon him, and as even the islanders steered clear of him. Not one seafarer would give him passage on his boat, for it was believed that Lee would cause the boat to be dragged down to the bottom of the sea. Lee was broken and destitute after this. He became a hollow shell of his former self. Lee lived like a hermit while wandering around the island until 1 year later. On this grim anniversary, the spectral ship returned in the same manner. The phantom horse rode up from the clutching surf to take the pirate passenger once again. Now longing for peace, Lee climbed onto the shimmering wraith. They sped off towards the bluff's edge, and this time the horse raged ahead at a flaming pace. It did not heed the rocky brim. The horse and rider became airborne, went over to the waiting ship, as it glowed with full sail. Again, the glowing apparitions of those who had met an untimely demise at his hand were on deck, staring at him with a fiendish grin. All at once the macabre mare plunged deep as a mortal scream of terror permeated through the night air. The glowing ship slowly disappeared, and soon as the stars were only the specks of light that were left to behold. Captain Lee was once again reunited with his ship, but he had a new crew of the ethereal form. Their duty was most likely to sail the captain to his eternal torture and punishment for his murderous deeds.
Excuse me. Of course he got his revenge.
Yes, he did.
That's good. And I'm glad he did it like full on Frozen 2 style. That's
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yep. That might be where they got the idea. Who knows?
Patrick wants to pet the wraith horse.
I do know where they got the idea.
I know there's a water spirit.
There's a couple of water spirits. Interestingly though, in Norway they tend to be like walruses with human eyes and stuff, but I'm guessing that this particular one is more Selkie inspired.
Yeah.
No, Kelpie.
Selkie is seal.
Kelpie is seal. Seals with human eyes are another one that the Norwegians don't like.
I will say that the Kelpie statues in Scotland, however, are amazing to see.
Oh, they're massive.
They are massive and they're gorgeous. I would love to go back and see them.
Mm-hmm. Road trip.
Oh, no. Let's see if I win Powerball tonight, then yes. There will be a road trip.
Oh, last flight to Edinburgh probably leaves in a couple hours. Just saying.
Is your
I'm
passport
down.
up to date?
No.
Oh,
I do
okay.
need to fix that
Yeah, I was
though.
going to say fix
I need
that.
to fix that and I need to get the real ID. Thank you for reminding me.
Alright, your turn.
Pleasure to be of service.
Next.
So, so our next stop is actually not too far away. So we're staying right there on the up there in the northeast, and this is going to be a story about a lonely monument that stretches up from the briny deep of Boston Harbor. Now, this monument warns mariners of the rocky reef that it is laid perched upon. Yet many consider it a marker for those whose souls lie within the crag, hidden beneath the pressing waves. It is the last vestige of an extinct isle where the bones of many pirates lie scattered and forgotten. Their fate was sealed by the hangman's noose that hung from a scaffold at the highest point of the rocky knoll. There are many spirits that still wander here on this little isle that is known by the curious name of Nix's Mate. It is believed that Nix's Mate received its name from an incident in 1636 when Captain Nix set sail with his crew. Once at sea, the captain was ruthless and unsympathetic with his band. If you stood beyond his favor, flogging was often the punishment, or a crew member might find themselves in the hold as a message to anyone else who went against Nix's absolute authority. At one point, the crew had finally had enough, and a mutiny was raised against the cruel Captain Nix, resulting in the captain being viciously murdered in his bunk. During the subsequent investigation, the crew all pointed their finger at the first mate. Their stories were close enough in detail to convict the sailor, and he was found guilty of murder on the high seas. Punishment was death by hanging. Forever swearing his innocence, he was rowed out to the little island where the hangman awaited. As the noose was slipped around his neck, he began vehemently crying for true justice to be served upon the men that carried out the vicious murder. The crowd that had gathered for the hanging was moved by his sincere convictions. They knew that the crew that he was associated with were guiltier than him. Still, the powers that ruled ordered the execution to continue. Before he hung from the gallows, he made a final plea. God, show that I am innocent. Let this island sink and prove to these people that I have never stained my hands with human blood. As his words trailed off and his lifeless body hung from the end of a rope, the magistrate thought justice to be done, but it was only the beginning. Many more pirates were hung at Nix's Mate. The dead bodies were then hung on chains as a display to discourage anyone visiting the city from engaging in piracy themselves. Those bones would fall from the gibbet and into a pile, and the island became a graveyard of pirate remains. Slowly, the water started to diminish the island, and it was noticed that all but the hill where the hangings took place and the gibbet stood was all that remained. The old-timers remembered the curse of the first hanged man on the island as it vanished into the deep. The curse of Nix's mate was complete. Today, cries of innocence and mercy permeate the air surrounding the monument where a small island once jutted from the sea. The cries of pirates gone to the gallows. If you dare, you can row out to the marker and listen closely, or look into the surrounding deep waters where the bones of dead pirates fell, claimed only by the elements and sea life in this little corner of Boston Harbor. I looked it up there. It really is just this little tiny spit of land out there in Boston Harbor.
You can barely see it from, I think it's from the aquarium. Can you see?
It would be hard.
Yeah, it's got to be a really clear day to see it.
And there's other little islets out there as well, which if you're looking at it from the wrong angle, it might be hidden behind or even blend in with some of the other little isles that are out that way.
I remember Chris told me about it. He's like, yeah, there's where they used to hang the pirates.
Not me.
No, not you.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law.
Yes.
I was like, oh, cool.
Another Chris.
Yep. Alright, so now we're going to pop up to Maine, and this is the Isle of Shoals. It's a rocky outcrop on the coast of Maine and New Hampshire that's a few hardy individuals will actually call home. Literary greats like Nathaniel Hawthorne, John Greenleaf, and Celia Thaxter have all written about this magical chain of small islands. However, they also claim host to many ghostly pirate apparitions and their ships on the misty nights. Excuse me, sorry. When the winds howl and the fog blankets the surrounding waters, it's easy to imagine the pirates might still be there. Now, there are 9 islands in all. Some belong to Maine and others to New Hampshire. The isles are about 10 miles from Fort Smith Harbor. John Smith actually wrote about discovering the isles in 1614. He named them Smith Islands.
Of course he did.
But that would soon be changed as settlers moved and gave their own names for those islands. The permanent settlers were not the only ones who moved in, though, as many East Coast pirates found that the small islands were perfect for refuge and, of course, hiding from the local authorities. The Shoal residents were very welcoming to the pirates, who paid them well for their silence and their protection. Some of the pirates even settled down on the small isles, while many found their way to the Isle of Shoals. Leaving is a little more difficult, as residual spirits still roam the shoals and the shores and the coves, looking for eternal peace and freedom. Phillip Babb is one such ghost. He lived on Appledore Island, where he was a constable, a butcher, and an innkeeper. He was said to be a retired pirate who chose the largest of the shoals for his home. Appledore is 1/2 mile wide and long, and in 1680 the Massachusetts Bay Colony opposed a tax on the island, and the autonomous islanders rebelled by dismantling their homes and rowing them across state line to Star Island. After that, the island became its own sovereign body. The Babb family cemetery actually still remains on the island. Now, Philip Babb was born in England around 1637, and there's little known about the man before he actually landed on the Isle of Shoals in 1652. Here, he had married and had children with his wife Mary, but it's his legacy of freebooting and phantom sightings on the isle that he's remembered for. It'd be fair to say that Babb's manners flagged him as a colorful character amongst his fellow islanders. Those around him believed that after some trials and tribulations at sea, he settled down for a safer career on land. They said that this retirement from the seas was likely due to avoid the hangman's noose that claimed so many of his colleagues. He was known to wear a heavy butcher's frock, a knife sheathed in his thick belt, and he lived on the south side of the island in a cottage near a cove. It's documented that he and another islander dug a massive hole near the cove, and that he either found treasure there or was digging up one of his previously ill-gotten gains. Whatever the case is, the hole was filled in and no one ever saw what came out of it, save for one neighbor who helped him with his toils. Now, he died on March 3rd of 1671 and was buried on Appledore, but has not rested. he still roams the cove, guarding his treasure from trespassers and hunters. One night an islander was said to be emerging from his workshop when he spied a wild form running towards him. At first he thought it to be an unsavory jest by one of his close friends. As the figure grew within arm's reach, the man saw the angry wraith and then heaved the giant knife from his belt and brandished it at the frightened man's face. The man fled to the safety of his home, barely touching the ground along the way. Can't say that I've liked it.
Right?
Long, wicked
Bye.
butcher's knife, yeah, I'd be running too.
Bye!
Another dweller of the island saw a figure meandering about in the moonlight at Babb's Cove. He could not make out the form as anyone he knew from the island. He called out to the outlined to find out what they were doing. The dark shade began to approach the apprehensive islander. The man thought it odd that he could hear no footsteps on the gravel path as the silhouette approached him. He then recognized the incarnate as the form of Phillip Babb. He could see the black eye sockets in the glowing butcher's knife and frock reflecting in the light of the moon. He shouted at the ghost, who then made its way down the path before vanishing into the darkness in front of the petrified islander. There are many more accounts of the pirate-turned-butcher phantom roaming the island in the dead of night. As for the treasure, the great storm of 1851 filled in the hole completely. A Coast Guard house now sits there where the treasure was supposedly still buried. Whether any treasure was found or if a treasure may still reside under the house, it's unknown. No matter the case, the tired ghost of Phillip Babb doesn't seem to content to rest peacefully.
Now, for such a small little stretch of islands out there,
There's a lot of ghosts on these
There's a
islands, and
lot
I
of
only
them.
named a few of them.
yeah.
Well,
So-
I mean, it is part of the culture
Yeah.
of a seaside town. Though.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a seaside town without ghosts.
Yeah, it's like 8 to 10 miles off the coast,
Yeah.
and it's right on the Maine, New Hampshire state line.
Yeah.
So some of the islands are in Maine, some of the islands are in New Hampshire, but you can the islands are close enough that you can almost walk across the state line.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of a,
It looks really cool. I got almost tempted to go visit it.
yeah. I know they do there's various companies that do little day excursions out there and stuff like that from some of the ports. So might be worth checking out sometime.
Another trip to Maine, we'll just go up
Yeah.
there and stay in Freeport or something and go over.
Yeah. Now, that said, more ghosts there. We do want to go ahead and cover it as long as we're there. It's not exactly a pirate tale, but it does fit the pattern of seaborne violence that pirates are most often associated with. So we're just going to go ahead and throw it in because we want to.
It was fun.
And it's our show. We can do what we want.
Yeah.
Did I say that out loud?
When Chris gets catty, guys.
Chris is punchy today, by the way. So
Today, he's just reserved something.
Oh no, he's extra punchy today.
Oh, is he extra? Oh.
He's extra today.
I've toned it down a notch.
Oh.
It's okay. It's all
You should have
right.
seen him when I came home.
Oh my goodness.
I told him he had to take a slight detour on another direction before the
It's-
show tonight.
Here I am. Here I am, smile on my face. I'm all good to go.
Still slightly punchy.
Yeah. So, anyways, now this next story comes centuries after the passing of Phillip Babb, and it's in the early 1900s that the Isle of Shoals were common stops for many of the guinea boats that angled the waters. Guinea boats consisted of Portuguese and Italian fishermen who sailed up from Boston to reap the bounties of the plentiful waters on the Isles. These vessels were a familiar sight. They were welcome and accepted. One night, a crew member on one of the boats savored a bit too much in liquid libations and rowed ashore to seek revelry. The drunken man spotted the wife of an island fisherman and began advancing towards her in a manner most sinister. He immediately accosted her, but the woman would not give in. She fought off the sailor's brutal advances until he pulled out his knife and plunged it into her, killing her instantly. He scurried back to his boat. The crew knew something had gone wrong by the demeanor and the blood. They immediately shoved off to sea, saying nothing to anyone of the ordeal. The crews of the guinea boats were a very close group. Each one protected the other at all costs. In the meantime, the woman's body was discovered and the authorities came to investigate. While the long arm of the law prodded and poked around with little success, The fisherman returned to find his home in an uproar. It was known that he and his wife did not get along. He was prone to have a quick and violent temper and beat his wife on occasion. That was enough proof that he had killed his wife, even though there was no substantial evidence. The husband was arrested immediately. While preparing the prisoner for transport to the mainland, a raging tempest rose out of the north. Travel was impossible, so the group held fast in the fisherman's cottage, waiting out the storm. In the full fury of the storm, the fisherman dove through the window out towards the beach and hopped into his dory. He escaped into the squall. The police rushed towards the angry surf, only to spy the misty figure vanishing amid the fog and wind, never to be seen again. Several months later, the same guinea boat made port in the Isles and began fishing once again. In the dead of a moonlit night, a thick fog overcame the region, blanketing it with an impenetrable shroud. Suddenly, the sounds of the sea were shattered by a blood-curdling scream from below deck. All aboard raced towards the agonizing shriek, but were not prepared for what they saw. There on the floor was their fellow crew member laying in a pool of blood. His severed hand lay just inches from the stump of his wrist. They all knew he was the man who had killed the fisherman's wife on the island months ago. During the melee, someone distinctly heard a set of oars locked into the hole pins of a dory, followed by the swishing of water as if someone was rowing away into the night. Another crew member swore he saw a figure disappearing into a small boat. It appears the fisherman had returned to get his revenge. The Phantom's appetite was not sated that night. Every guinea boat that harbored at the Isles met the same fate. A sinister fog would roll in, soon followed by an unearthly scream as a poor innocent fisherman will be found hacked by a mysterious being. One man had an ear lopped off, others a foot, and of course, more hands. One unfortunate sailor had his nose removed, ouch, by the swipe of a large knife. Another sailor screamed while his eyes were torn from their sockets. Each time the oars would be heard clinking into the dory and the swishing of water as the figure rowed away through the ominous fog. Guinea boats appeared less and less as the phantom dory preyed upon them in a regular succession. Soon the fishing vessels were like ghosts themselves. They became a faded memory amongst the shoalers. No guinea crew dared transgress the curse laid upon them by their fellow crew member on that baleful night. As for the Phantom Dory, it is still roaming close to the Isles, watching every ship that enters its domain. It would be wise to check your heritage before planning a lengthy stay at the Isle of Shoals.
As far as I know, we don't have any guinea.
No Portuguese, no Italian.
Yeah. As far as I know.
So.
Other European countries,
yes.
but not those.
Hopefully it keeps our hands and feet intact.
And noses. I kind of like my nose where it is.
It's a nice nose.
I mean, I do threaten to cut it off during allergy season, which has started, but...
I mean, it makes sense. It's gone, and the issue is also gone, so...
Hopefully. I'd rather do the witch from Return to Oz, though, than just switch heads. So this one's having allergy issues, we just switch to this one.
Yes.
It's so much easier.
Oh, wow, that's what I've been seeing. In a bit.
Yeah. I need a bigger closet.
Love the idea of switching things.
Alright, so let's go to another pretty well-known pirate tale. This is the legend of Don Pedro and Ocean-born Mary.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I like pirates.
Now, Mary Wallace was not a pirate herself, but her story is filled from beginning to end with pirates. Weddings, wedding gowns, brides, big houses, and of course, booty. The story begins July 28, 1720. The bow of the ship Wolf is pointed straight towards Boston Harbor. The ship's filled with Scottish-Irish immigrants heading towards colonial America from Londonderry, Ireland, to settle in Londonderry, New Hampshire. On the port side of the vessel is another ship flying the flag of a pirate. The Wolf is boarded by a band of looters, including Don Pedro, their handsome and ruthless leader. As Don Pedro's men begin to loot and gather the passengers together, he hears cries from below deck. With cutlass in hand, he investigates the noise, only to find Elizabeth Fulton and her husband James tending to a newborn baby. While Elizabeth protectively holds her baby, Don Pedro asks, "What's the baby's name?" She answers, she doesn't have one yet. Don Pedro makes a deal with the new parents. If they name the baby after his mother, Mary, Don Pedro will return all the stolen items and leave the people on the ship unharmed. They agree, and Don Pedro baptizes the baby in the name of his beloved mother. The fearsome pirate and his band leave the ship after returning all the taken items from the passengers. But before Don Pedro leaves the ship completely, he returns to Elizabeth with a bolt of beautiful green brocade silk from the Orient. He requests that they make Mary's wedding dress from the fabric when the time comes. The Wolf made its way into Boston Port, and unfortunately James Fulton dies soon afterwards. Elizabeth, however, continues on to Londonderry with Mary. Mary grows up to be tall, beautiful, red-headed woman. In 1742, Mary marries James. And, of course, she wore that gown made from the green silk as requested. Now, the remnants of this famous dress are still on display to this day in a couple of places. One is the New Hampshire Historical Society in Concord. The other is at the libraries of Heinecker and Londonderry. The couple had 5 children, 4 boys and a girl, and legend has it that James Wallace died young and left Mary in the care of all 5 children. In the meantime, Don Pedro had given up his pirate life and rowed up the Chickamauga River to a parcel of land where his ship carpenters had built him a beautiful home. Much of the home resembled his trusty ship. As it turns out, Don Pedro was actually an English nobleman turned privateer through the letters of marque. These were official letters granted by the government to attack enemy merchant ships. Now still young and prosperous, he settled onto his vast tract of land, and later actually became Heinecker, New Hampshire. News of Mary's plight had reached him. Some say he actually kept tabs on her since that fateful day, and he beseeched her to come with her 5 children to live with him in his home. He promised he would take care of all of them. Some say he married her, others say he was actually supposedly the deceased James Wallace. Either way, Mary took care of him in his home for the rest of his life. One night, a few old friends of Don Pedro paid a visit on them. There was much conversation, and Mary paid them no heed. All of a sudden, she heard a shout and then the voice of Don Pedro cursing the other men. When she went out back, where she found Don Pedro lying in the yard with a cutlass still in him. She removed the sword, and before he died, he told her to bury him under the hearth in the house, so he could always watch out for her. He also confessed to the whereabouts of his head in gold and jewels from his previous life. Mary did as he asked, and then lived in the rest of her life in the house. She was 94 years old when she passed away, February 15th of 1814. She's buried in Heinecker Center Cemetery behind the town hall. Now, her story didn't die there. Her spirit remains in that house today. Many people have claimed to have seen a tall red-headed woman in the windows of the old house when it was unoccupied. People have claimed they've seen her ghost in a spectral horse-drawn carriage moving towards the house. State police once reported seeing Mary's wraith crossing the road in front of the house. In 1917, Louis Ray and his mother purchased the house and opened it to the public for tours at a fee. He claims Mary's ghost has been present in the house, and this captured the imaginations of everyone around the house, and the magazines also to thrill seekers looking for pirate treasure. Louis would tell tales of the rocking chair moving on its own, Mary descending the stairs and then disappearing into the air, and of her saving his life on more than one occasion. In 1938, a hurricane blew through, and Louis noticed the garage was swaying dangerously in the wind. He went out and found some long timbers to support the sides of the building. When he came back in, his mother asked who had been helping him outside. Louis was quite shocked, as he said to his mother that he had done the task on his own. She said, "No." There was a tall red-headed woman in a white gown that had been helping him, but vanished on once he crossed over the threshold of the house. Mary helped him again when another storm overtook the region. This time, he claimed that she saved his life 19 times during his struggle to hold together the buildings on the property during the Great Nor'easter. Lewis's family held tours in the home well into the 1960s, when they actually sold the property to David and Corinne Russell. Now, these two had cared for Lewis Ray into his old age and were happy to continue his work. During their tenure, the caretakers accidentally dropped a kerosene heater down the stairs, covering the stair and the wall with the oil and fire. He ran outside to grab snow to douse the flames, as there was no running water in the house at the time. When he got back inside, the flames were gone. His wife had been watching in disbelief as she saw the flames quickly die down and smothered in a mysterious manner. They were sure the ghost of Mary Wallace had a role in this uncanny occurrence. One visitor came to the house and was greeted by a woman in 18th century attire. She answered the door and stated that the owners were not at home at the time and the house was a mess. The guest thought she looked a bit strange, but heeded her words and left. Later, when she returned, the guest was informed that no one like that she had described actually worked in the house, at least not in the physical realm. Her ghost is still reported to roam the grounds of the house, especially in the yard. Now, Don Pedro is still buried under the fireplace in the house, or so New Englanders claim. Many have felt vibrations when touching the hearthstone, while others have witnessed a man in strange garb standing near the fireplace. It could be that he is still watching over his domain, and he is also seen in the yard, possibly where his hidden cache is, hoping Mary will still need him in death.
He's so comfortable right now.
I have a joke.
You have a joke?
Bring it.
Why did the ghost cross the road?
Why did the ghost cross the road?
To get to Pirate Treasure.
To get to the other side.
But
Yeah, it's not the anti joke there. It's other side being.
The other side.
Yeah.
to get to the other side.
Beyond the veil. But that would make for a very good punchline.
No, to get to the other side is definitely the fun one.
Alright, so let's see, we got what, another couple tales.
Did you take out my pirate gun?
Did I?
How dare you!
What did I do? I don't know.
You took out my pirate joke.
You have the old script right there. Go ahead and look it up. In the meantime, I will carry on. We're going to actually go back.
Is it in this story, or
I thought it was with Don Pedro.
what was the pirate joke?
I gotta find this.
I ruined the show tonight.
Yeah, it's all Chris's
It's all
fault.
my fault.
Because now the only pirate jokes that you guys have are mine. And I'm sorry, I was raised by a troglodyte. I hope she's not watching.
Probably not. It's
Mom slid in every now and then.
although this will be this is being recorded for posterity.
Oh.
It shall live on forever.
Oh yeah.
At least until Facebook and YouTube burn down.
That could be any time.
It could
honestly.
actually, yeah. You never
That's
know.
why I gotta get you guys on TikTok. Gonna get the skeletons to do the dance.
Yeah. Alright, you're already scrolling through the next story.
Yes,
So.
I am. I'm trying to find my pirate
Alright,
joke.
I will carry on. So back up to Maine. We're going to Jewell Island. Jewell with 2 L's. And it is one of the many islands that litter the Casco Bay area of Maine. They were once called the Calendar Islands because it was said that there were 365 land masses jutting from the water. In reality, about 220 had been inventoried according to the rule that it must have 1 foot above water at all times and have a tree on the landmass. Jewell Island has a history of blood and treasure, and yes, it is haunted because of this. The island was first settled by a fishing master named George Jewell. He traded gunpowder, rum, and fishing implements to the native Indian tribe for the island and lived there as a recluse before meeting his end in Boston Harbor. The island is 8 miles out from the Portland shoreline and made it a sought-after place for pirates and seafarers. Today it is a state-owned property with designated campsites and trails. There are also 2 World War II towers standing 60 to 80 feet tall on the property. Some of the permanent fixtures here are centuries old, dating back to the island's earliest days of being inhabited. Of the many pirates that visited these islands in centuries past, perhaps none are better known than Captain Kidd. He is said to have buried some treasure on the island during his pirating days, and even though he passed away centuries ago, he will come by to check on it. A man, George Vigney, procured a map supposedly drawn by Captain Kidd. George was from St. John, New Brunswick, and he came to the island in search of the treasure in 1860. At the time, a less than scrupulous man named Elijah Jones lived on the island, and somehow they hooked up as digging partners. Soon, Jones was rich, and the other man was nowhere to be seen. When questioned about George, Jones told people that they were unsuccessful and he had gone home. Curious folk wandered out to the island, where they found a large hole on the south cove with a square imprint of a great chest at the bottom. From then on, people began to see a hideous human form with glaring green eyes and blood dripping from his mouth whenever they came towards that area. The islanders even poured lamb's blood around the spot in order to exorcise the demon that they believed Jones and George may have unearthed during their plunders.
I said it was lamb's blood.
Because lambs, innocence.
Innocence.
See, you answered your own question.
I know, but still, they're
Why
cute.
have me here?
They're
Oh, we're
still cute.
You like veal.
lambs are veal is delicious. Also is lamb. Lamb is also delicious.
Lamb is
Yeah.
delicious.
As is baby bunny, but we don't
Yes.
have that.
Anyways, we digress. As we do.
Tangent.
Now,
We've had rum.
just a
I'm
little
out.
bit. Just a little bit. Anyways, the horror did not confine itself to the cove. Jones's home was prone to screams and moans permeating the midnight air. Windows and glassware would smash to pieces in front of stunned guests. His house was forever a haven for hell. Jones lived into his older age and died in the late 1800s. Some said that he was a pirate and rum smuggler during his life. As for being a killer, a farmer stumbled upon a skeleton wedged into a crevasse while plowing his land. Older locals recognized the distinctive ring on the bony hand with the initials GV as that of George Vigney. The horrible wraith was no longer seen after that, but the area still reverberates with an interminable haunt. As one walks by the site where the treasure was found, peculiar lights and creepy groans emanate from the cove. One can hear the sounds of shovels digging in the sand, echoing through the sea air and sending a chill down the bravest of spines. But who are the phantom diggers? Are they the original pirates that hid the loot, or are they George and Jones destined to live out the grim events of that night when the treasure was unearthed? The ghosts of 7 other pirates are said to roam the island as well. Anne Bonny was reported to have been buried a stash on the island, and after her men finished the task, she killed them with her pistols and cutlass. Some frightened visitors to the isle have seen the ghosts of the murdered men wandering amidst the wooded area and shoreline. 7 graves with small markers were discovered in the 1960s. Perhaps they are the final resting spot for the bandits' mortal remains. Now, as long as we're here, we do want to note some of the other spirits that seem to be lingering on Jewell Island. We did mention the World War II towers earlier, and during World War II, Jewell Island was one of the islands used for garrisons by the Navy. There are gun batteries and tunnels where the remnants of a fort once stood, holding vigil over Casco Bay. Margaret Newland played on these remains as a young girl in the 1970s. In 1977, she was 15 and was wandering along the trails by the old fort when a chilling spectacle greeted her. She turned into a tunnel that led to a gun platform when she suddenly heard voices coming from the duct to the gunnery. At first, she assumed it was other hikers exploring the old fort, so she called out to them, but did not receive a reply back. As she stood a few yards from the entrance of the tunnel, she saw 3 figures in old uniforms and helmets emerge from the tunnel. One even wore spectacles that were reminiscent of the 1930s or 1940s. They approached her as if she did not exist. She stood there, frozen in fear, as the phantom soldiers meandered by her and faded before her eyes. She rushed back to her family to tell them of her experience. They did not believe her that day, but as more and more reports and sightings of the ghostly crew still manning the fort came forward, they realized she may have been telling the truth after all. No one knows who the soldiers are, as there were at least 500 soldiers stationed at the fort during the war. Perhaps there are more than the 3 that Margaret actually saw on that fateful day. Did you find the joke?
Yes, it was my combination of Phillip, Babb, and Don Pedro, and the fact that some of the stories say that Don Pedro was Phillip Babb, but the timeline doesn't match up.
Yes.
And I said, well, maybe this was a example of the Dread Pirate Roberts name being
yes.
passed off.
Dread Pirate Roberts, Princess Bride, if you're unfamiliar. Granted,
I like Princess Bride.
I put that in there specifically for Liam. He took it out.
Yeah, how rude. Like, actually, how rude. Now, Phantom Diggers was a phrase that was just said.
Yes.
That's a good band name.
It would be a good
It
band
would be
name.
a great band name.
I would want them to be a jazz band, though. Something new.
That could work.
That could definitely work.
Yeah.
Or bluegrass. One of the two.
Well, we already have, luckily we have the embalmers holding down the zombie surf rock market.
Yes, we do. I love them. They're
They're
so
amazing.
fun.
They're wonderful.
If you guys don't know about the embalmers, you really should.
Check them out on
they're
Instagram.
They're on Instagram, more so than Facebook, but they are on both.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're coming up on their busy season too. But they get around. They're playing
They
shows
play
almost
Poe
every...
Museum all the time.
Yeah, they're at Poe Museum all the time. They played a show at the Branch Museum earlier this year on Friday the 13th.
Yep.
And they regularly play the breweries and whatnot around town. They're going to be at the Pumpkin Fest or whatever over by Scott's Edition next month. They're going to be doing
I'm
a
sorry,
lot.
Pumpkin Fest?
What it was, something like that. I might be the
Is
wrong.
that where they shut it down with all the pumpkins?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
the
gonna
one I
be-
have not been to.
When is this? What?
We went once.
No,
It's
you
fun.
went.
Maybe I
I was out of town.
Okay.
Okay. Anyways,
Well, remind me of this, because I like pumpkins a lot.
it's on Facebook. There is a Facebook
Well,
event.
they can have a Facebook, but I am also ADHD. I'll forget.
Okay. Well, again, this is being recorded for posterity.
There
All
we
you
go.
have to do-
I'll just have to listen to this whole thing.
Yes. Such a hardship. Anyways.
Alright, so let's go down to Salem.
You were getting a little too warm there, buddy. Sorry.
They are hot, though.
They're
Yes.
little heaters.
Little
Yeah.
heaters.
When it's like 20 degrees out. Alright, so of course Salem is known mostly for its witches and the trials, but it's got some ghostly pirates too. Captain Mark Walford resided in the small inn kept by Deacon Hezekiah Peabody. There's a name. The captain resembled more of an inhuman spectacle than not. His sunken eyes and bushy brows were the only accents to his fang-like incisors that protruded from his upper lip. Vampire pirate?
Yeah, of course.
Even though his burly seafarer hair could not mask the portent appearance excluded by the man, yet he was known to be pious and respectable. His garb was plain, and he was always punctual at Sunday Mass. He was heard night after night pacing his quarters while his ship, the Noah's Dove, was being fitted for sails and repaired for a long journey. The deacon didn't tarry much over the late-night clopping, since the captain was always prompt with his rent, and it was paid in Spanish doubloons, which I have right here.
Aw.
Soon the ship was ready, and Captain Walford called everyone who was to sail aboard. It was Friday. Now, the mariners, as we've spoken of before, that's a day of rest. It's bad luck to sail forth on a Friday. The captain was undaunted by such a foolish notion and planned his departure. Many had taken the passage on board, bound for England to see their families. This included a young married couple of a strange demeanor. No one had seen them before. The man had introduced himself and his bride as Mr. and Mrs. Walter Severn. The relatives staying behind became apprehensive, and the couple might be minions of the devil, seeking to take their loved ones after they had reached the high seas. The farewell party turned into a foreboding plea of respite for the journey. Upon entering the deck of the ship, Mrs. Severn took one glance at the captain and fainted on the spot. Her husband took her below deck, and the crowd grew more tense with the incident. They also could not help but to notice that the Noah's Dove was more than adequately equipped for defense against a possible attack from pirates. 6 guns, scores of muskets, and more than enough sabers. It seemed that the ship was readying for the work of a privateer. The captain unfurled the sails, and 2 more strange and nefarious-looking men jumped aboard the ship to aid in its departure. A raven landed on the town clock at this exact time, and this was the final omen, and the villagers begged their loved ones to abandon the mission, but no one would have it. A great gust of wind tore the ship from her moorings and cast her off to sea. The fearful villagers watched as the ship sailed over the horizon and disappeared. The wind that started the journey grew in intensity. By morning, it was raging tempest that wreaked havoc on the land and the sea for 3 days. Hail, lightning, fire, thunder opposed the midsummer heat. Death and devastation were imminent. The storm became known as the Gale of 1676 in the history books. On the 4th day, the seas calmed, and the sun shone again. The villagers looked to the sea for signs of a shipwreck, but they would see no evidence of one washed ashore. The villagers were sure the storm had taken their loved ones and blamed it on the strange passengers on the Villa Dove. Just as the sun set, a shout was heard from the rocks above. Someone had spotted a ship on the horizon. The whole village rushed to the shore to see the glowing ship appear in the distance. As it came towards Salem, an old mariner pointed out that the winds were blowing away from the harbor, but the ship bore down on them at a steady pace. As it grew closer, people could tell it was the Noah's Dove. It was dark now, and the ship glowed as if its bright light from the heavens had spotted her and was keeping her lit as bright as a bonfire. The Reverend Zebediah Stephen called for the villagers to pray for the countenance, so that they may find peace in heaven. Amidst the prayer, the ship arrived glowing like coals out of the blacksmith's fire. Cries for mercy and help interrupted the prayers. The villagers saw their ship melt before their eyes and their loved ones disappear in the flames. No one knew exactly what happened to the Noah's Dove until many years later, when an old man of good stature and character came to live among the people of Salem. He made friends, but was mostly a recluse of sorts. On his deathbed, he summoned the clergy and told them that he was Walter Severn, the man who had sailed on the ill-fated Noah's Dove. While out at sea, the raging tempest brought an end to the ship when a bolt of lightning had struck the masts and burned the ships to the water's edge with only 10 minutes of time. He and his wife were the only survivors as they clung fast to a spar until they had been sighted by another ship heading for Hispaniola. 2 months later, they sailed for England. His wife unfortunately took ill and died shortly thereafter. He then sought the passage back to Salem. The captain of the Noah's Dove was indeed a pirate who had once plundered the south coast. His wife had witnessed Captain Walford kill her father in the Gulf of Mexico. Even though he had been a man of ill repute, he had been determined to bring his passengers safely to their destinations in England.
The end.
Aww. No more?
No
That
more.
is it for tonight.
For tonight, I have not covered half the book that I got these from.
Oh my.
There's many, many pirate ghost stories.
Yeah.
So that
But these are pirates of the East Coast.
Yeah,
so.
which I should have actually called it that. Because
Oh.
that's basically all this was. This was Pirates of the East Coast. We'll have Pirates of the Caribbean. Will probably get us sued or something, right?
Probably. With what
You know
Yeah.
how does he go?
Hmm?
You know how does he go? You can
Yeah.
always do Ghost of the Caribbean.
Yes, this is true. So now, well, while we were busy arguing about your joke, Patrick did chime in with some pirate jokes.
Oh,
Oh, wonderful.
let's hear.
So, how do pirates know that they are pirates?
Okay, I don't know this one. What's up?
They think before they are.
Ah.
But
Why don't pirates shower before they walk the plank? Because they'll just wash up on shore later. What does the pirate say when his leg gets stuck in the freezer? Shiver me timbers.
Oh, okay.
How did the pirate get his Jolly Roger so cheap?
No. What?
He bought it on sale. What did the what did the ocean say to the pirate?
What?
Nothing, it just waved. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you.
nice way to end the
Okay.
show.
Excellent.
I got one.
One more?
Pirates have earrings.
Yes.
But how much do you think those piercings cost?
Pieces of 8.
No. A buccaneer.
A
A
buccaneer.
buccaneer.
They get infected. But
Oh, all right. So next time, what are we doing next time?
Gates to Hell.
yo,
Dun, dun.
Yeah, we're taking a little bit of a heavy turn on this next one.
Sam Winchester cosplay. I will be in that. And you guys will all see it.
We will make an appearance on screen.
Oh my
So,
god.
I think with Gates to Hell, Portals to Hell, something like that.
Yeah.
Hell Gates. It's going to be about, well, Gates to Hell. There will also be some, like, Hell cult stuff in there.
Love those.
It's going to be the kind
It's
of
an
show.
interesting show.
It's going to be the kind of show that'll have us bursting into flames, or I'll have the priests next door knocking on our door, or something like that.
Well, I'll be wearing my
You guys
Hellfire
up to
Club
date and
shirt.
shit again?
The funny thing is, we live in Church Hill. We're surrounded by churches. They're delightful neighbors.
Father Nick said he'd come bless us anytime we needed it. It's good to make friends with the fathers next door.
Yes, they're wonderful people.
I just love that you told me how the church people were all concerned because you didn't have your skeletons
Oh,
out.
I know.
this is
Oh,
true.
God. I started putting out the decorations, and they're like, oh, it's time.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, it has begun.
So,
They have been missing my skeletons. As you can see, the new one with the lights.
yeah, this guy right over here. The skeleton army grows. So, yes, decorations started going up on Saturday. They started going up late Saturday,
And then it rained.
So we just have a bunch of lights up, but there will be more decorations coming
Oh,
in
no, we
the
have the demo bats up.
bats are up there.
Yeah, the bats are up.
So
Lights and bats
Seen
and
the
bugs.
bats? I haven't seen the bats.
Yep, they're hanging.
Lulu has been bothered this entire time.
Have we had hacking concerns?
Are you anxious?
Yeah, Lulu has been severely bothered.
Are you hearing the storms that are going on, baby girl?
Yes.
But yeah, so that's going to be our next show in 2 weeks, which hopefully at that point in time we will have some exciting news to share with you about October events.
Yep. And then in October we're doing Creepy Dolls number 3.
Yep. As in previous years, there will only be one show in October because October is
Crazy
October
busy.
for us. So
Is it busy? Like
It's crazy busy.
of all the months, do you think October is a busy month?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, granted, this summer we might have given it a run for its money this summer by running 7 nights a week.
Oh my goodness, though.
It was great.
It was great. I'm so tired.
Our next summer schedule is pretty much already ready to go. So.
Yeah, no. For real, I didn't hate it.
No.
No, I liked it.
I was happy we were able to do that, and it wasn't as popular as it was.
Yep.
I'm just really tired after.
Yeah, I mean, it's exhausting for sure, but yeah, dudes.
We love what we do. Love what we do.
Yep.
So come watch us do it.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please come out for tours.
Yeah, come
Please
watch
come
us
out
do
for
tours.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
tours we... Oh, one thing that we can announce.
Great
Okay,
things.
yes. So, all right, well, we are still doing tours on Fridays and Saturdays. So you can sign up for public tours Fridays and Saturdays this month. Next month we will be coming back with Wednesday through Sunday. So we'll have tours going 5 nights a week in October. The first full weekend, 7th and 8th, are technically already sold out, so we don't have any availability there, and other tours are starting to fill up quickly, so we encourage you to book sooner than later. And if you look on our schedule far enough down, on Wednesday, October 19th, we are premiering a brand new tour.
And Lee's doing it.
I'm giving it.
Lee's going to be giving
You
it.
guys can see my face if you come.
It is going to be Creepy Tales on Campus.
Now,
And
the reason
this-
why we're calling it creepy is because it's not all ghost stories. There are 2 murder stories in there.
Yep.
But it's got the vibes, though.
It
Oh, it does.
Oh,
Totally
it
has the
totally
vibes.
has the vibes.
So yeah, a lot of spooky stuff, mostly spooky stuff, but there's 2 straight up
Murder stories.
murder stories that are going to be shared. And
Kinda like
this
it.
is basically is about stuff that took place in the area that is now VCU's Monroe Park campus. So VCU's Monroe Park campus, if you've been here to Richmond, you might know that VCU basically owns like a third of the city or something like that.
Yeah, anytime an old house comes up for sale, they usually buy it.
Yeah, shocking.
No, I got excited because we do this tour blocks away from the famous Christian's Pizza. Now, if you guys have been young or students in VCU, you have gotten by on Christian's Pizza, and so now I will be able to have Christian's Pizza before tours. So,
So she's happy.
Yeah.
I miss living near there.
But you're closer than you were a few months ago.
Yes, significantly
So there's
so,
that.
but I've
Anyways.
eaten more Christians a few months
Yeah.
ago.
But so yeah, that tour it is officially premiering to you, our adoring fans, and the general public.
Sell me out. Sell me out.
Wednesday, October 19th. 19th. Yep.
And we'll get it worked into the schedule more
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah. Right now, I think that's the only availability we have on the calendar. But there will be more to come, and it will officially make that we have 5 regularly offered scheduled tours in the rotation.
We're
So-
expanding.
Yep. So come check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Very excited about this. It's a beautiful area. Definitely has some spooky vibes.
Well, it's just like I was telling you guys the other day when we were walking through it. It just feels like a ghost tour. And I'm not saying our other ghost tours don't.
Oh yeah.
It
But
certainly
it's
do.
got the Golden Age mansion.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know.
You're walking around and like I've never been to New Orleans, but it feels like a ghost tour in New Orleans.
And the thing about this one is that we have a little more flexibility in where we can walk.
True.
Because it is a state campus. There more or less isn't any trespassing.
Yeah.
We
so-
can't go into the buildings. We're not going into the buildings.
But we can go up near porches. And
It's
that
like
sort of
Williamsburg.
thing.
Yeah, yes, it's
Yeah.
like Williamsburg.
Yeah, it's
We-
like Williamsburg.
we have
there.
we have the ability to go in and we can walk around in the
The
in the
yard
back
area.
gardens and stuff like that. So, yeah,
And so we do.
yeah, and so we do. It gives
We
us
did check this out before we.
yes,
Yeah.
we did
We
verify.
verified.
Although we probably should still drop a note to the VCU police just to give them a heads up
Yep.
because they might be curious.
Yeah, they're vigilant.
Yes.
That's the word for
Yep.
it.
So
And we just like to let them know, hey, by the way, this is starting. This is where we're going to be.
yeah. But
Just so you know, when you,
This
see
is
us,
sold out. Wait.
when you see us on security cameras, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, looking forward to that. Going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, I think that's all we can announce for now. As we said, there's going to be a lot more coming up in the next couple of weeks. We'll talk about it all on our next show. And, well, there will also be intermittent announcements in the between now and then as well. So,
That's the announcement I was excited for. Obviously, I'm excited for that one other announcement at the very end. But this is the one.
Lee's ready for this one.
I'm so freaking ready, guys.
I was working on the memorization of it today.
I was too. I have all the cards in my pockets.
My flip book's in my purse. I'm like, okay, we don't have anybody in guess.
I was totally gonna come in today and get a cucumber sandwich, and I should have. I should have. I will later.
so anyways, yeah, one of our longer shows. It's almost an hour 15 in.
We goofed
Alright.
off a
Yeah,
bit.
we did
so-
goof off just a little bit.
Alright.
We love chit-chatting and all that good stuff. So, anyways, thank you all for joining us tonight. We'll look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks. And as always, if you have questions, comments, concerns,
Ideas.
religious conflicts,
I
what
have
have
ideas.
you.
Are you running out of ideas?
Not
No,
yet.
we never run out of
Okay.
ideas.
But I never mind a new rabbit hole.
Yeah, if anybody wants to give us ideas, we're
Oh,
always
honey,
happy.
I have a paper on it.
So,
So
all right. Good night, everybody.
Night. I'm waving. I don't know why I'm waving.
because you can. All right. With that, we will catch you all in 2 weeks. 26.
Yeah.
Sure.
26.
Yeah, I think so.
That
Sure.
sounds right.
Sounds right. All right.
That's a date.
You got
for
it
sure.
all right there.
Oh God, I got it.
I got it. Never
Thank
mind.
you.
I don't know how to
All
do
right.
that. I don't know why I was doing anything.
Bye, y'all.